digging into what it takes to start an airsoft site and also some of the highs and lows of running one from the newest site in Kent. Stay tuned. It is time for Airsoft Radio. Hey everybody, welcome to Airsoft Radio, your weekly Airsoft show discussing all things Airsoft, whether it's news, opinions, or just general discussions. I'm your host, Graham from Airsoft Nation, and here with me, as always, are my two co-hosts. We have Platoon Jim.
Hello.
And, of course, Sarah, a.k.a. Tataquin, down
Hello.
there.
Hello.
And our special guest this evening for episode 14 of Airsoft Radio is one half of Reaper Operations. The newest site in Kent is Alex. Welcome to the show. If it is your first time joining in, I should just say welcome to the show. We're live every Monday from 8 p.m. And if you're watching, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, please feel free to jump into the comments, say hello, or even share your opinions on the conversation. And until then, Alex, just want to, for anyone who's not aware of who you are or what Reaper Ops is, can you just give a very brief introduction before we find out what everyone's been up to?
Very brief. So, Reaper Ops Airsoft, one of the newest CQB sites in the southeast, only started up this year. Trying to do something different, and so far succeeding, it seems. So we run a little site called The Fort down in Kent, like we're really small. Sarah's been there; she can testify. It is small, but yeah, so far going well.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, since we've started the show, I think it's near about every other week one of us have been speaking about the site. So it's definitely been one that I've enjoyed going to over the last couple of months, that's for sure. And we're definitely going to dig into that because, as you say, it's kind of weird. It's like a small site, but it's not really when you start considering the terrain differences and the variation of tunnels and stuff. I think there's a lot of scope with it.
Oh, for sure. And generally, certainly if you look back at the basics of paintball, I think most of us have played paintball at some point. I know it is sort of a dirty word. What you get there generally is so you have this massive site with different game zones and the variance that you get there. So you get whole days players. You're going to go and play a game at this game zone, then that's game zone, and that game zone, and that's how you get your variety. And certainly Airsoft games have that to a certain extent, albeit with different objectives. We're limited in that we have the one game zone, which is the fort itself. There are other areas which we can move into, but for the moment, we've only got that at its core. So, obviously, on top of all the hardships that you would normally have in an airsoft site, we've got to go, crap, we need to fill a whole day with this one area. What can we do? So it's really forced us to come up with so many different scenarios and objectives and different things we can do to keep it fresh. And so far, it's going quite well. We had our first game in January. And we're sort of 6 months in now, and we've been doing 1 or 2 games a month. And although we're launched, it still, for me, feels like we're in the beta stage because we're still trying new things and moving cover and realizing that, that spawn doesn't work, etc. But the feedback we've been getting has been incredible. Like for me, I played at a lot of sites over the southeast, and I can tell, the fort is a good site. I'm slightly biased, but it's a good site. But some of the people that have been coming back, even on like the first game, were saying that it's the best site they've ever been to, which is incredible to hear. And, if this is at the early stage, hopefully it'll continue, really.
No, absolutely. No, it's awesome news. And as I said, I had a thoroughly good time. We'll definitely dig into that. Before we do, though, let's find out what everyone has been up to and then also say hello to people in the comments. Sarah, where were you this week?
Well, I was at that little place in Dover, which I've probably mentioned a million times. I won't say the name. But yeah, no, I
believe he was voted best marshal in Airsoft, I believe. Big up to Boomer out there.
Oh, was he? Oh, brilliant.
There was a lot of votes going his way.
Yeah, I'd definitely vouch for that. But no, it makes a difference when you get a whole group of people that are really enthusiastic. We had an oil barrel game where, one team one side, one team the other. First one to grab the oil barrel and bring it back was the winner. I think we'd done it in literally 10 seconds. So it was just getting a plan together before you went out, which doesn't happen very often. Everyone just does their own thing quite often. But no, it was they were trying to find ways to make it harder. Should we have 2 barrels? Should we make it heavy? But no,
you're doing well when the marshals come back and sort of go, right, we're going to move your spawn back just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can't use that door anymore. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, I think the guy that grabbed the barrel, the hysterical girly screaming, just was the icing on top of the cake, really, as he was running with it.
Airsoft's never serious. Sounds like you have more organisation than I did at last week's battle, Tim, that's for sure. Tim, what have you been up to, Hal?
Well, living the dream, clearly. I say dream, might be a nightmare, not sure. Well, when I'm avoiding my many trolls, then it's been a quiet week. I took Sunday off. I had nothing to do with Airsoft. I switched social media off for the day. And it was awesome. Fuck Airsoft, I'm out. I'm done. It's a nice, quiet one. But I've got a project that I'm working on at the moment that's non-Airsoft related. That's taking up way too much of my time. So it's difficult. But hopefully, going to change that next weekend.
Very cool, and looking forward to it. You got any more Milsims planned? Obviously, you just came off
next weekend.
Oh, is it next weekend? Is it? Oh.
Yeah, down at SEO, stroke Bush Valley, Operation Excalibur. So it should be. I've got no idea what I'm doing. I'm just turning up and being pointed in a direction. So
season vet at this point, surely.
I'm just fed up with being like, and it's nothing against any of the people that run the events that have asked me to do stuff. But I've really stopped enjoying being the, all right, you're going to head up that faction. We're all going to do that, because it's just like, people don't fucking listen. Everyone turns up and wants to do their own bloody thing, and just, the good idea fairies are rife. And I just wouldn't mind doing a couple more events this year where I can just switch my brain off and just enjoy it for a change. So, yeah.
Well,
but then again, I am the granddad of Airsoft before anyone else. I know you're all itching to.
Why'd you beat me to the punchline?
Just because I like to piss all over your jam sandwiches.
I'm sure you have a good time with your Zimmer frame in the command post there.
Absolutely. Don't be ageist. What have I told you?
Alex, were you playing at all this week? I know you do a lot of playing, or when you can.
Absolutely. It's kind of hard to balance it with work, but I try to get out where I can. So this weekend, just gone on this Saturday, I went to UCAP's newest site, which is UCAP Valiant. They've pretty much got the monopoly on prison sites at the moment, and Valiant is the newest one down at Dorchester. It's their smallest one as well. But it's absolutely amazing. I think it's an amazing site, and I played at Redemption before their other one, and I found it quite difficult to play because it's very... because it all leads into the sense that you end up with quite a lot of stalemates. But Valiant, because it's so many different multi-buildings, it is absolutely wonderful, so fluid. And because they've got the 3 prisons and they're trying to distinguish them, the Valiant one's the more tactical one. So it's not a mil sim, it's not a battle sim, but it's definitely geared towards players that enjoy that sort of thing, that want to go throughout for a skirmish on the weekend. And it's because it was one of the first games down there, there were only 22 of us, 11 aside, this whole prison site, and you'd be sort of roaming, trying to find an objective and having to go cell by cell by cell, floor by floor in this whole block. You'd go the whole block, not find anyone, step out the back door and then run into an enemy patrol and fight this isolated fight. It was so wonderful to play. I definitely recommend it to anyone that's considering the trip. It's down in Dorchester, so if you go to their other sites, it is a little bit further, but it's definitely worth it. And it's wonderful. And also, it's indoors, so I don't have to put sun cream on, which is always
I was looking at the weekend on Sunday night. The amount of posts went up to UK Airsoft community. It was like, who got burnt today? And there's just tan marks and burnt marks on rather lobstered people who thought it'd be a great idea to run in a tank top for the day. Maybe not the best for some of the sites, that's for sure.
No, I definitely know my limitations. So.
But this is like a proper prison. I know like the jail's a prison, but it doesn't feel the same way that this does in terms of you've got the railings, you've got got the main wings as such, right?
Yes. So the way Andy from UCAP described it was all the prisons they've got them because they're going to be redeveloped in the sort of coming months or years, and they've only got them in the interim. Certainly Redemption, and I think Gloucester as well, they've been hard stripped. So although you've got the physical structure of the prison, all the doors have been taken off, all the beds are out. Anything physical in there has been taken out except for what UCAP have put back in as cover. Whereas Valiant, because it's very fresh, it hasn't been stripped yet. So every single cell has got a bed in it, and it's got the cabinets. There's a photo I put in the UK Airsoft community group, which I took in the prison chapel, which, because it's not been stripped yet, it's still got an organ, there's Bibles on the side and that sort of thing. The picture is of me playing the organ badly, I will point out, but it was kind of hard to pass up the opportunity. But it's certainly having that natural cover and all those things that make a prison, it really makes it so much more immersive. And because it's separate buildings, you've got to sort of, rather than just going down a wing, which can be quite difficult, you've got buildings with multiple entry points, roof space, basements, all these different ways to get around site. It's really quite good.
That's cool. I think they've done amazing work in the last year. The growth has been absolutely insane from UCAP. Jim, you've been to Redemption, right?
Yes.
You went there a few times, didn't you?
Yeah, it's a great site. I think it's a lot of fun. We even did just like a pistols night down there, which was a 6-hour round trip, but well worth it. We did it just one Monday night because we just sort of like, sod it, we're going to go. And to be honest, that has probably been one of the most fun games I've played in ages. But Redemption's been played a few different ways. And the last time I was down there, Andy did open the outside up a little bit so that you could actually assault from the outside of the prison in, rather than just having to sort of start at one end, and made it a lot more interesting. And it was there's never a bad UCAP site. They've all been really, really good. Even Green Ops, which is my least favourite, is still a really good site, well run. So yeah.
Yeah,
I got down to the bunker for the first time, I think, a few weeks ago. And for me, I live near Epsom, so Epsom Tunnels used to be my favourite site. And I've just discovered the bunker now. I don't know why it's taken so long, and it's almost like the same thing. And it's just
it's very similar, isn't it?
And it's full auto indoors as well, which is awesome.
Is the bunker in Portsmouth?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I have played at that one. A few years back now, once in the snow.
What I quite like they do with the full auto rule, because it is quite polarising, certainly in CQB, because some people love it, but unfortunately a lot of the time you can't trust airsofters with tools like that because it just gets a bit messy. So I think we all know the old adage that after lunch generally people get a little bit more grouchy at game sites. So they will do full auto in the morning and then semi after lunch, which is quite good. So you get the two different styles of play. Like if you want to run a limited gas, like a gas gun which has got limited ammo, you could do that in the afternoon and run an AAG in the morning. That way you don't inconvenience yourself. And I think it balances it quite well. It's an idea I'd like to see done perhaps more places.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about full auto and CQB sites. And again, I've played at full auto at sites. But ever given the choice, I always go, right, let's go semi only. I think it's not so much the pain. That's not so much the problem. It's just trusting other airsofters nearby, because people are so itchy on those triggers. They're not even identifying who you are before they're pulling the trigger.
Yeah, I think it definitely does depend on the player base as to whether it's something you can do or not. I
mean, we did that at the. Did anyone play at the boat? Jim, did you ever get to the boat?
No, not before it sank. No.
Are you telling me you got to it after it sank? You're there in scuba diving with you. I've got a gas blowback. It works here.
I turned up, just forgot my flippers. That was all it was.
If I may, on the topic of gas blowback, there's a recent addition to the collection here, which came up for the first time at the prison, just gone now. The WE gas blowback A3.
It's
a little bit of classic UK history, I think, here. And if you're wondering whether you can do that HK slap, you absolutely can.
That is really nice. I like that.
How have you found running gas blowback?
Can I demonstrate, if I may?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your hopes and dreams go in somewhere around here, and then your bitter disappointment comes out about here. But that said, it did work well. But because it's brand new, like I needed to set up the MPAS and stuff and get the FPS right. So there was definitely some teething issues, but once you move past that, it was very rewarding. I mean, obviously they're sort of limited to the games where you can deal with the ammo limitation and the issues you have running a gas system. And certainly Valiant is somewhere where you can get away with it. But I don't think I'll be taking it to a woodland site anytime soon.
I suppose you've got a good 2 weeks of sun for airsoft for a gas blowback, right? So you should get away with it for a couple of weeks.
No, we've had summer. It's over.
Yeah. I'm relying on all the training tonight, and that is the end of it.
Doom and gloom is coming. Abandoned airsoft.
I hear paintball is good this time of year.
Abandoned life. Abandoned it.
That's all from Airsoft Radio. We'll see you next week. Let's get another guest.
And to our final viewer, we're sorry.
I was going to say, at some point, we will be getting Harry back on the show, a very vocal speed softer who's recently taken up paintballing as the competitive side because there's simply not enough competitions in the speed soft environment, and he's loving life. I'm not sure I'd agree with my wallet, but
I mean, I know. I apologise. I've mentioned it already. I used to be a massive paintballer. Went around the UK doing events, and it is a wonderful sport. And a lot of the time, I know Airsofters are like, this is this horrible other thing. There's this us and them mentality. I mean, it's a brilliant game. It is a very different game though, and there's sort of I'm playing Airsoft for a reason. Mainly, it's a hell of a lot cheaper, and there's a lot more you can do with it in terms of scenarios. But it is definitely, get the right paintball game, and I promise you, it's not too bad.
No, I mean, I've played paintball 3 or 4 times over the years. It's your typical stag do or birthday party bash on that front. But if you've done paintball events, what's your thoughts on the mag-fed stuff? Because to me, that's when airsoft and paintball become very similar.
I think mag-fed is paintball's attempt to do airsoft at a simple level. I sort of transitioned over about 6 or 7 years ago. So I left paintball sort of around the time when mag-fed was starting to come into fruition. So right. I've not played mag-fed. I'm aware of it, and I know a lot of people who do it. And it's certainly paintball has an issue, which is actually sort of something we're starting to see in airsoft now. In that paintball markers, if you've ever been to like a game where you turn up and you play for a stag do or whatever, you get a very basic paintball marker. You pull the trigger and it goes bang. It's a mechanical marker. They developed electronic markers about sort of 15 years ago, and it really went from there, and the speeds got faster and faster and faster. And there are now sort of paintball guns out there which will do the same sort of speed as DSG airsoft guns, where you get into ridiculous rates. So they put a cap in, and they said 15 balls per minute. That'll be really bad. Balls per second. And then it's actually been coming down, and there's been more and more drive to make it slower and slower and slower, because the extreme speed you could fire at and the amount of ammo you could carry was just making it sort of a game of who can fire the fastest and the furthest, and it was really taken away from gameplay. So mag-fed is also, it's not really an offshoot, but it's also tied into that, because it's players that are trying to get away from the standard game where you've got people just firing all day and not really playing properly, and swapping to players where they're actually watching their ammo and playing a proper game. And we're starting to see it in airsoft a little bit with more DSG builds being cheaper and more achievable, and we've not got to the point yet where we've had to get, sites having to step in and say, a limit on how many or, how fast your fire rate can be. But with the way things like Polar-Star, HPA and DSG are going, I wonder whether it will be particularly long before maybe we do start to see that in airsoft, because all of those systems have got the ability to regulate your speed. And it is starting to come up that a lot of times you go to sites and you are just getting blitzed at a ridiculous rate, and there is sort of some appetite out there for a limit in some ways. What would be your thoughts on it?
I would say I know at least 5 sites that already have rate of fire limits. Alpha 55 being one of the first I knew when the Tipman came out on HPA, and the Tipman itself, it doesn't particularly have a high rate of fire, but at that time they were seeing an increase of HPA at their site. And again, as you say, the ease of use of being able to switch up the rate of fire just wasn't doing good for their player base. Their players, they got a lot of new players coming in, but like you say, the last thing they need to do is be lit up at 30, 40 BBs a second. But in paintball, if you were doing that in paintball, you might as well just throw your wallet at someone. It's who's got the biggest wallet at that point, surely.
That was the other side of paintball for me, the cost. I mean, Airsoft, I'm not saying Airsoft's cheap. Airsoft can be as cheap as you want it to be. If you want to spend 150 quid on kit, you're done. Or if you want to spend £3,000 on some really Gucci stuff, like some of us have, I'm sure you can. But with paintball, just the ongoing cost of paintballs, even at trade rates where you're paying, £25, £30 for 2,000 rounds, is just it is insane.
Yeah. I think so. Let's have a little poll here, and guys, if you are watching live or on the replay, feel free to leave a comment here. Should sites have a rate of fire limit? Because this will be an interesting one.
As if so, what?
How far do you go with that limit? I'll go first because I know this is going to cause controversy anyway. And Jim's already put it pretty much going, oh, why are we doing this already on the show? I think we should have a rate of fire limit, and I think it should be below 30. I'm actually thinking more mid-20s. For me, 26 is around about that limit, I think, for me, from what I've seen and what other sites I've seen have implemented. I still a pretty high rate of fire in my eyes, but...
Why is that, Graham, though? What's your reasoning behind that?
I think there's a level of that realism in terms of a lower rate of fire. I also think it will make players appreciate and be a bit more respectful for each other, because I think the worst thing for tempers flaring up is someone who's got 60 rounds a second, 50 rounds a second, and is just hell-bent on getting someone until they cry out their hit rather than giving them a second to actually react to the hit. It's the same way that I've said that I don't think we should have high caps. I think we should switch down to mid caps, and we're starting to see now that mid caps are at a higher capacity of your 200 round mid caps. I think at this point we should just go get rid of the high caps, mid caps only. We're all here for airsoft. We're not playing paintball. We should be reloading, but it also does give you that little bit of realism as to what we wanted, and stops the overkill. But I know there's going to be a lot of people that hate that because, again, drum mags are a thing.
They are. My opinion on it is, it's subjective, isn't it? Everyone wants to play a different style of airsoft. For me, if I could, I would have a limit. Would it be workable? Have a limit sort of at what the top of realism is. So, like a rate of fire that's around the top end of what real guns can actually do, which sort of 30, like you said, or just below 30 is a limit of I think what's reasonable. Certainly, anything more than that is just overkill. In terms of ammo limits, I don't run high caps anymore. Like you said, there's some mid caps out there that are so good now. I've got some of the SOCOM Gear ones that are 190 rounds. I mean, you don't even need high caps at that point. Also known as bitch maracas, I'm reliably informed.
But why is there this thing about making things as real as possible? At the end of the day, it is a game.
That's it. Yeah.
If so does it matter how fast you can, how many are coming out a second? Does it matter? Maybe to the crazy ones, I don't know.
I would say,
maybe to people that can't control themselves. Maybe for people who can't aim properly. I don't know.
Accuracy through volume.
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters if you can fire 100 a second or 1 a second, as long as you can hit someone and have a good aim.
So would you put a limit on there? Or would you say no? It's up to the user.
No, fuck it. It's people. It's down to people's control. I haven't got one yet. But I just think it's down to personal responsibility. At the end of the day, I got shot in the back of the head almost point blank by someone who, he was very sorry about it. But at the end of the day, there was only one BB and it hurt like fuck. So what difference does it matter how many? We've got a 40 mic that can hit you with that. How many BBs? I don't know. Loads in a second. So
we really are going for like the trifecta.
We're going for it, yeah.
People off tonight, aren't we?
I'm going to piss everyone off tonight, but I don't know. That's just my point of view on it. It doesn't matter to me.
That's like the argument that the 40 mic can do 20,000 in a minute, and it's like, but you can't. You can only do 150 in 0.3 of a second. There isn't a real number out. But talking volume, Jim, you've been quiet.
I think you can say, talking volume, here's a load of shit coming your way.
Well, that may well be indeed what happens here. So,
thank you,
Jim, go for it.
No, do you know what? I listen to this argument day in, day out, and HPA shit. I can't stand sniper rifles. Get an M4 and a Glock. shut up everything else and just play the fucking game. So yeah, there we go. Someone will no doubt will edit that into a soundbite and make a bigger prick than I already am, but I don't really care anymore. Right.
Would you put a rate of fire limit on for skirmishing? Because I know that you've got a different opinion about milsim and skirmish, because we've had this chat before.
Yeah. I think to the point, like, just keep it sensible. I mean, you could argue the toss of like, oh, well, if you make it, 23 rounds a second, and mine fires 24 rounds a second, am I that much more dangerous? And then someone ups the limit to 24, and whatever number you set, someone will always try and push the limit on it. We've seen it with FPS.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I remember when it was like everyone had to keep to 330, and then that got pushed up to 350, and now people are saying, well, as long as it's under 360 or 370, it's fine. And it's
if it's 374 and below, it's fine.
Yeah, and so I think it's a very sliding scale. I just think there should be a dickhead tax that you have to pay when you're booking for an event. If you've got a box mag and a high rate of fire, you should have to pay more, because marshals will have to marshal you more. And I don't know if Alex would agree with this, probably not. It's not the best business sense in the world, but I just kind of feel like there are those people that rock up to these events with box mags and all that sort of stuff because they want a tactical edge, and they don't want to walk back to respawn, and they want to stay in there a bit longer. And some people just want to hose people until they cry on the floor in pain. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I think people should charge them more money for it.
Well, we took the easy option. We've just banned box and drum mags. Not for realism purposes, more just for game purposes or gameplay purposes.
Yeah, I mean, you're not the only site to do that. And I remember when UCAP, which we were supposed to, originally had this whole thing like no box mags on M4s, no two-tones. And when they put that rule out there, so many people were outraged. But now it's quite a common situation of like, no, we're not doing box mags on M4s. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And
if I could jump in, I'll just going back slightly on what I said. If it's a genuine support weapon, it's fine. But you see people running like the Firehawks and the ARP9s and these tiny M4 platforms and just going, we'll just have this massive drum mag.
It's all just so silly. We're firing a 6mm.
The way I see it is not how many how much you can shoot. If you've got a big drum mag, you can clearly stay out all day. You don't even have to come back to the safe zone to reload. Job done.
Maybe we should have a drum mag as a cooldown. After 30 rounds, it just stops working for a minute. Just as this is like that timer. Like, there we go. That will solve the issue.
The irony to all of it is those people that tend to run their guns at the edge all the time, and especially HPA users. I do love how they try and tell me that HPA is so brilliant. And if I wanted a gun that I spend more time in the safe zone fixing than I do shooting, and when you're standing there with your ARP9 box mag and you've overwound it and broken it, and that doesn't work either, and then you start pissing and moaning that the mid caps don't work and blah blah blah. I just think it's funny because it's like eventually they'll all just break and no one will give a shit anyway. So they're all crap.
I will say
there's no skill in it.
There's so many people who disagree with that statement for sure, and I know there's just a few in the comment section. So I just want to highlight a few of the comments coming in, guys. Feel free to join in with the conversation. I know it's getting pretty crazy already. Sean Fletcher's in the house. Good friend Sean. Stop saying the P word. I think that one is on for Alex for sure. Richie's there from the Heresy Group. He's saying that skirmishing, there should be low limits. Milsim, there should be. And again, I kind of agree in that respect. I think, drum mags work fine on support guns. But that's input there. We've got Pete Lone Wolf's there. Gunny's here as well. He tunes in every week. Great to see you again, pal. Who else we got here? Kev's joining in saying 30 rounds a second should be max. And that he's recently gone to mid caps and it's much more fun. The only issue he's got is the ARP9 that has a drum mag on because the other mags are not particularly good. And that is obviously some of the issue with these smaller carbine-style rifles are the drum mags seem to be the best performing mags out there. And I think that's going to be an issue if any sites were to restrict that. Because I presume it's the same thing with you guys. I know you've got a few ARP9 users that go to Reaper Ops.
Yes, there were some people that were a little bit upset initially. It's understandably, like if you invest money in the system and then we sort of take away the ability, like probably all the people that bought the 40-month thinking this is brilliant, and then realised that pretty much every site went no. yeah, I think people are begrudging about it, but I think it's understandable, and certainly the vast majority of people are like, yeah, I can see why that's happened. Certainly for us, I think it does very much depend, not on whether it's just milsim or skirmish, but the type of skirmish. It's like if you're playing at a big woodland site, people are firing far and fast anyway.
Yeah.
When you come towards CQB like us in those urban sites, I think those limitations there certainly have much more of a place, which is what we've done it. Like if we had a woodland site, or we were playing at a woodland site, I wouldn't put that drum mag restriction on. It's purely just because of the site it is, and we're trying to push more the use of tactics and being clever with what you're doing rather than spray and pray.
Yeah,
I'm saying anyone who uses one is spray and pray. And as Sarah quite rightly said, a lot of the time it's just ease because you don't have to reload or they feed well. But we're sort of trying to push things in the direction a little bit more, not necessarily of realism, but trying to. Because there's so much variance in airsoft guns. If someone with it's £90 G36, like they've all had at some point or used as a rental gun, versus someone with things like thousands of pounds invested on a system. Generally, if you're shooting at distance or free volume, one person will demolish the other, and it's pretty obvious who will. But when you take away those enhancements and make it more about how you're playing, it's a much more of an equaliser. And does anyone want to tell me it's not satisfying to see a HPA wizard, a super serious milsim player, both get destroyed by a rental player? G36, because that is just the best thing.
I think it's satisfying to watch any newbie hand someone that's experienced their ass. I think that's it's happened to me. I stood there and just got shot by a kid with a Springer shotgun, and I was just like, fuck. But then, again, it's just a game. But I mean, I think if you're going to run a box mag, and if sites say, all right, you can have a box mag, then you should only be allowed to use single shot or 3-round burst on it. There's got to be a compromise somewhere. So have all the ammo you want and no reloading, but you can only have single shot.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm out all day.
I mean, that would, I mean, if you could trust it, that would work. that I suppose that would work, yeah. Again, especially for these CQB sites. Just whether, again, support guns, a lot of them don't have single shot.
But then, I mean, I've seen support. I mean, you say box mags on support guns is all right. They can still be misused. I've still seen people, wander around firing at the hip with a box mag, the finger on the trigger until it breaks, or mini guns. They're the other fucking stupid thing in airsoft that needs to be eradicated.
I think that the summary of this discussion is give that man a version 1 TM for mass, and he will just be happy. Back to basics.
You're just trying to offend me, FAMASs.
We had this discussion
last week. An airsoft classic.
I feel a bit queasy. No, just everyone should have M4s and Glocks and just be grateful for it. We don't need any other guns. Just stick to that. Everyone's equal that way. Everyone's equally as worthless. And I can't even see what that one is. Is that an AK?
It is an AK. See, it's a much better platform to work on.
Okay.
Look at that.
You sure it's an AK? Because it looks a bit.
Yeah,
are they sending the rest of it by post? Is it a part work series? In July, you get your stock, or...
So this was bought for the other half because she found the M4 too heavy. So I brought this, but I'll be honest, she played twice and then it just became mine. And it's a cracking little gun. But since all of the love for M4s, I was like, nope, I need to bring out something for the AKs. So there we go. That's my little Russian gunslinger AK. It's fantastic.
And I bet you've got a box mag for it.
No.
I've never seen anything like that.
I mean, it is
like an AK had a baby.
Yeah, it's a Jingong rifle that the gunslinger, I believe it's just gunslinger. If you search gunslinger airsoft, he modifies, makes them shorter and smaller and as compact. And obviously, being an AK, the battery goes on top, so you don't have an issue like you would with most M4s of requiring a PEC box. Cracking little gun. So I thought I'd bring that one out. And a few people already commenting about Warhammer. It wasn't the intention, but it does look somewhat like a bolt rifle once you put the mag in there. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, support guns can definitely be abused. I just think less people have them, and that was interesting. You said about the minigun. Beyond that first month, I haven't seen anybody use these miniguns. Like I'll see it at NAE or NAF. you'll see there'll be one guy with them for sure. Has anyone even seen them on sites? I hardly see any of them, any of them.
I've seen it once. I've seen it once, and everyone got so pissed off. Almost after the first game, half the people went home because they'd had enough. One guy got shot in the throat, and he was like, "That's it, I'm out." He had it. He had had enough. It just wasn't fair. It didn't make the game fair. It would have been better if there'd have been 2 miniguns and
Who said
one for
like
each team.
fair?
And half the time, I think he was trimming the edges with it.
It's got to come with a roll. If you've got a minigun, you've just got to hold it down and just go around in circles, surely.
Yeah, that is basically what he was doing. It was ridiculous. But no, that's the only time I've ever seen it. Since then, I haven't seen one.
Yeah, it's like the AA-12. All the talk about the AA-12 being like overpowered and everyone saying how crazy they were going to be. But in actual fact, I've seen a handful across the sites.
We are literally mentioning every shit gun there is tonight, aren't we?
I don't know. I actually really like them, but they just don't seem to work for long.
Our friendship is being tested.
I left that one up there. The M4 there for you, Jim, just after last week's show.
Don't think I didn't notice.
I will say there are a lot of people there talking about also the classic Army DT4. Has anyone actually been on a site with one of those yet? Which is obviously the double M4 essentially. So 2 gearboxes. No, I think they had so much hype when they first came out or first being shown off. They almost took like a year before they were released.
And that was like all those double pistols that were out. There was that fad a year or so ago of the double pistols with the double
1911s, yeah.
It's like double the shit, double the disappointment, double the price. It's
one of my local sites has a cabinet full of them. And every time I go in and look at them, I think surely no one's actually going to do that, because that, again, I've never seen one other than in the shop.
It's because they've got no way to hold it. It becomes a wall hanger at home. There's no way it's not like you can hold a holster for a double, surely. So at the end of the day, you're going to maybe some CQB sites, but I think even at that point, it's like you've got to be more disadvantaged at that point anyway. WE clearly ran out of ideas because it seemed to be all WE rated pistols at that point, didn't it?
I think I just made too many mags, and they had someone in the workshop that was like, I can weld 2 of them together, and we'll sell twice as many.
My thoughts was how do you chrono it? Because you've only got the circle, haven't you? So how does that work?
The answer. Poor Marshall holding the chrono.
Without holding the chrono.
Just put your finger in front of it to catch the one pellet, and then one will go through.
That's your sacrifice of buying a stupid pistol. You put your hand there. The thing is, the DT4, I suppose you just load 1 mag, but I think the double mags, yeah, they must do the same, wouldn't you? You'd have to load each side. I've never actually even looked at the magazines on those front, but
nor should you.
No, definitely not.
Encourage anyone from ever buying one or looking at one. It was a stupid idea, and it in no way helps the gameplay whatsoever. And if you're out there and you've got a gun with 2 barrels, like one of those, just go away. Lock yourself in the cupboard.
The photos to James at airsoft.radio.co.uk. Just get spammed with all these.
Please join my troll fan page. Talk about it at the next meeting.
Wasn't Novridge talking about it on one of his recent videos? He was talking about a double barrel gun. I'm sure.
Oh, I think that was the DT4. Yeah,
double barrel snipers. You heard it here first.
Because that's what we need.
Can you imagine? That would be hilarious. Would you put scope in the middle, or do you just have scope either side? You just like that.
Goggles.
Twice the headshots. Lie. Think of the cameras you can mount to it.
One to
That's the biggest question.
And one to shoot the enemy.
Would you mount one either side on either barrel, or would you just put one in the middle?
You do one either side in case one missed, surely. I mean, you never miss, but in case you missed. Let's swiftly go back to a topic you said earlier on, and I think this is a really good point. I've got a lot of friends who played Airsoft, and they started Woodland, and they've always hated the idea of playing CQB. And I say to them, and they talk about, oh, I'm not interested in running around or anything like that. And I'm like, CQB seems to be, in my eyes, probably one of the fairest ways of playing, because it doesn't matter on your budget to an extent. That, like you say, you could have a newest player or someone with 1,500 quid's worth of rifle. The range and performance isn't going to be the biggest factor in these gameplays. What's your thoughts on that?
Who wants to go first?
We'll start with Alex.
So again, it depends on the site. If it's a semi-auto site and fire rates are completely out the window, then obviously the gun matters to a certain extent. How large it is, how small it is, how easy it is to use in a compact environment. But that aside, it's entirely down to skill, which again, as a new player, can be a little bit difficult if you're got no idea what you're doing versus someone who knows the site very well. But coming back to the topic you mentioned there about running around, if you're someone who is more unfit and struggles with the running and long distances you might cover at woodland site, you'll probably find CQB is actually easier on the body because there's a lot less pelting it and running it around. And also when you do die, the walks to respawn are a lot shorter. You'll find, certainly if you look at urban CQB where you're fighting in buildings and corridors, you're generally not running, or if you are, you're darted to the other side of the corridor, which is you're done within 5-10 meters. So I suggest to someone, if someone's sort of concerned about Airsoft or CQB from a fitness point of view, you'll probably find it easier than you think. And in terms of skill, when you're a new player, it's always going to be hard, but you're going to be a lot less held back by kit limitations. Kit will be a lot less important, although it's, if someone's got 5 tremors, they're probably going to,
I was going to say,
someone who owns multiple tremors, I'll put my hand up there, but it'll never be easy, but it might be easier.
Sarah, as someone who does a lot of CQB, as your favourite aeroplane.
Well, my very first experience of Airsoft was a CQB site in a very small kill house, and I do remember when it all started screaming with laughter the entire time. I don't know what the rest of them must have thought, but I think that stuck with me, the fact that it's almost more exciting than a woodland site, because when I did go to woodland eventually, a lot of the time I'd be walking around the site looking for someone to shoot. Is that a leaf? No, that's a person. No, it's a leaf. Oh, I can't hear him. He's too far away. I can't be asked with this. Then you fall over. Then you get a dirty arse. Then you just get fed up and pissed off. It's raining. And then it's just like, I've had enough of this. I'm going to go and have my lunch. So
I'm going to guess you're not
I could jump on the back of that. We live in a country which there's a lot of rain and a lot of cold. Woodland sites, when they get muddy and stuff, I'm not going to say I don't enjoy rolling around in the mud, but an urban site is a lot less weather dependent as well. And I think that's an important thing to consider, certainly when you go through the winter and autumn months, that it's generally going to be the same all year round, really.
Yeah.
Pussies. Jim. Jim, how much you enjoy playing in the snow?
I played in the snow. That was quite fun.
I know, we've both done that.
To be honest, I don't care where it is. I mean, urban sites are more fun. There just tends to be a lot more cover and a lot more you can do with an urban site than a woodland site. It's like, oh, run over there and capture that flag. Run back over there and capture the other flag. Run over there and just keep running. That tends to be most woodland sites to me. I mean, not all of them, but it is about sort of, that kind of, I don't know why. I just find it's always been a lot of woodland sites adopt the paintball. There we go. We said it again, paintball. Have adopted that format of, it's Airsoft, but it's same format as Airsoft as paintball games are. Whereas urban sites and CQB sites tend to, I've always found they were just a little bit different. They had a little bit more of an edge to them, either by the nature of the site or just that you could do more and you could have more fun with them. And I don't think that means that you can't do something with woodland sites, because there are some good ones out there that try and do a little bit more. But on the whole, I've always found them to be sort of like, right, there's the respawn areas, there's the bit you've got to go and take, which has got a flag in it or whatever. And it's it's always kept a lot simpler, and probably because it's easier to run. And I don't know if, again, Alex found that running a CQB site is more hard work, or you have to kind of, sort of up the game of it a little bit? I know that I certainly did when I ran an indoor site, that it was right. It's going to be that you're limited by the fact it's the same format pretty much every time, because you can't move the buildings around, you can't move the structures too much. So you have to think, how can you make it more interesting and make multiple games out of one more limited area, if that makes sense?
I think it's that topic I touched on before, where it does become a lot more dependent on the scenario you're running, because that is the way you bring variance into the day. It's not necessarily the game zone, unless you're lucky enough to have something that is a lot larger, where you've got different bits you can use.
I'm going to throw the other one out there. I much prefer Woodlands. I love a good CQB site, but I find that they get repetitive. Well, it's not even, my snap has been in parts for weeks and my SVD is still a wall hanger. But I just find that CQB sites, for me personally, I can get repetitive. I couldn't go to the same CQB site twice a month for 6 months. I'd go crazy on there. Whereas I can go to Woodland sites and know that I'm going to get a different type of gameplay. But again, I prefer the Woodland sites where they don't take that paintball approach and they take more of a battle sim, long, for the first 5 hours will be one kind of mission or a couple of missions, but you're kind of out on site as much as possible than the shorter games. And again, I'm a biker all year round, so the weather doesn't really bother me. And I'll play whether it's -5 or 35. And I do think that all comes down to what type of person you are, whether you want to play out in the rain or not. So let's switch the conversation over towards sites and actually into the main topic, so to speak. Of obviously, Alex, you've taken over sites 6 months, which seems crazy. It feels like it's gone really fast. I'm not sure how you feel about it at this point. But talk us through, what's it like for you running a site especially on a more of a twice a month basis on these events?
Harder than you would think. I think it's more so because there's just so many different things that you don't see as a player until you try and organise something. Like, the mainstays of all airsoft sites out there are things like big oil cans, the blue barrels, the bits of cover which are pretty much used everywhere. It's actually harder than you think to try and find those, because every other airsoft, I'm saying the word again, paintball site, go-kart site, all those things are trying to say, yeah, we'll have your tyres. You've got to really hunt. And that's the easy stuff. Like, when you start to get towards the logistics of, like, a hire company bringing out portaloos, it sounds completely, boring. Believe me, it is. But there's so many different things to think about. But I think the hardest thing is we're at a point now where, airsoft is definitely on the way up. The amount of sites that are out there now is insane. Certainly in Kent, I think is spoiled. There are so many in Kent, and that sort of extends into Surrey and Essex as well. So the harder thing, it's hard running it with all the logistics, but also it's trying to make a name for yourself and making the site good in terms of what you're doing, and that's in part down to doing something different and doing something unique that draws people to it. And the other side is sort of getting people to you. And that the reason why Kent has so many sites is because Kent has loads of airsoft players. But those are all airsoft players that have a site they go to. And you'll know yourselves, you'll have your favourite sites and you've got your friend groups there, the marshals, the layout. It makes it easier to win. And people love playing the same site again. Like I said, Epsom was my home site. I would go there as much as I could. And it's quite hard to draw people away from that. And I don't blame them, because if you've got your home, it's quite hard to give it up. I try as much as I can to play as many sites as possible. So if I play at a site and I like it, and if I really like it, I still probably won't go back there for 3 or 4 months, because I'll try another one and another one. I'll sort of have a rotation. Yeah. And I would certainly, if you're one of those players perhaps listening and thinking, you play the same site week in, week out, have a look around. Even within your county, you're going to find 7 other sites, and just sort of try and keep a rotation going, because it will make you a much better player rather than playing the same thing over and over again. Go into new sites, new structures, new environments. It will improve you as a player, and sort of support the other sites as well. So for us, the main challenge is trying to convince all these other people that have their sites that they really enjoy to say, I know you like that site, but you'll probably like us as well. And I would say I touched on it before, that we are a really small site. We're not your usual site. We're capped at 40 players. Geographically, we're small. We're probably not the sort of site where you'd go, right, I'm going there every week. We're the site where you go, right, I'm going to go there this month, and then maybe go back in a few months' time. And I think that's how we're doing quite well, in that we are different. I think another good example of that is Rift have a site called the Bomb Dump, which is a really quirky site, a really cool site. But in the same way as us, it's quite small and limited. So to regimentally play there all the time, it's quite difficult. So it's one of those ones where you play there, and I'll play there, and go back to it again. And I think that's how we're drawing people, not necessarily to have us as a regular site, but a site where they go, you know what, we've got a few of us that can play this month. Let's go there. And I think in terms of unique selling point, the Fort and Reaper Ops Airsoft are two different entities. Reaper Ops Airsoft is the company, and the Fort is the site, and that's what we're running. And like I said, we're in our first 6 months. We are looking in the future to try and do events at, I know it's a bit cliche, but doing things at Longmore and other stuff, and expanding. And for us trying to expand the company, it's large in part in making a name for ourselves, and we're doing that in two ways. One, trying to do a very good job at the Fort, and the other thing is that there's a lot of companies out there that either have ex-military or military influence. Sterling is the obvious example of that. Yeah. They do milsim really well. Nobody can follow all that. The military style stuff, the foreign theatres of war, absolutely spot on. But there are a lot of companies that do that, and for us, we've got quite close ties with the Metropolitan Police Airsoft Club, and because of that, quite a few of our staff are not only police officers, but we've got quite a lot of either current or former police firearms officers. So that is another side of sort of the CT and combat world, which generally hasn't been touched too much in UK Airsoft. So as we look towards the events, and certainly we've got a special event which we've just launched tonight for later this year, we're taking things, and rather than fighting in the Middle East, which has been done a lot, because it sells, it's good. We are trying to base stuff in a UK theatre of operations where we can, and doing things like counter-terror simulations, because it's not been done before. That is our unique selling point, but that is more of a Reaper Ops thing rather than a Fort thing. And this special event later this year is going to be the first time we see that. And then we've sort of taken all the different things that we want to, put them into one event, and then if it works, we will then try and grow those individually. So like the counter-terror simulations is only part of the weekend that we're doing. If it goes well, try and do that as a whole event in future if there's enough appetite for it, and likewise the other parts. Sorry.
No, that sounds wicked. And I think you're right. I mean, we do have a lot of the Middle Eastern events, especially on the Battle Sim and Milsim front. So I'm trying to think if I can remember any real counter-terrorism style events. I can't think of anything. I'm trying to think whether anything happened with the gunman events where they did stuff like that. I know we've always had like the police turning up as a faction in one way or another, but never anything based on that. So that's a really cool way of going from it.
I think so Britac have got an event coming up at Cokehill Down, which is Cokehill Down. Any opportunity to play there is brilliant.
Yeah.
They've got a police faction in that, and they're doing a UK themed event for the first time as well. But it's tied into their main Milsim series they run, which is Middle Eastern. And the idea is that the fighters from there have managed to get some sleeper cells into the UK, and now the combat's happening on your front door, basically. So I think that probably one of the reasons why it's not happened, because if you look at Longmore and Cokehill Down, they are more European styled than the Middle East. The reason why we go for the Middle East is because certainly when you look at Milsim, when you're trying to do realism, the UK isn't a war zone. It's very hard to write a backstory or make something believable, like an all-out combat in the UK, because you open the window and go, wait, no, there's kids playing in the street. It's not a war zone.
Infiltration Ops, I would say, would probably been the nearest to that, as Jim will remember, which was more of a dystopian. The government's collapsed. It's almost like Brexit.
Well, it's funny you mention that. The way I was sitting there thinking, right, I need to do something UK themed. I need to somehow crowbar all these different camos in that people are going to wear because it's a camo rules game. Yeah. And I need to make it believable. How can I do that? And the answer we've come up with is we created something called Dereliction, which is going to be our series of events going forward that we can take to different sites. Cool. And on our website, it's written out a lot more eloquently and longer. But basically, the idea is it's 2021. There's been some nuclear attacks in the UK. people are displaced, resources are dwindling, and we're now into a post-apocalyptic stage where you've got this sort of renegade military units that are splintered off and are now trying to vie for the resources and control of the country. And you've also got all the civilians that are going, wait, no, that's not cool. And you've got the police that have tagged onto that. So we've got, on the one side, a team that we can put in multicam, MTP, desert camo, and all those things, and also we can make it believable because we can say it's post-apocalyptic. All these people are together; they're mashed together. It's not one unit. And on the other side, we can say, all the people that run police loadouts in grey or navy, and then all the people that run civilian camo or that sort of outdated DPM. Yeah, you're all together, and it's kind of wow, it's a very nice website. That it's all gone together sort of quite nicely, and we've got those two sides. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes because, we've not done it before.
Yeah, and that'll be your first weekend event, right?
It will, and that is because we've got a small site. We can't really run stuff overnight, and it's not a big site. So we've got basically Saturday and Sunday. Sunday is that dereliction main event where it's camo rules. It's not a battle sim. It's got elements of battle sim to try and make it a little bit more tactical. That runs the whole day. The Saturday, however, where I mentioned that we've basically taken everything we wanted to do and put it into one. That's basically the Saturday. So we've got a sniper competition for the RBLI charity, which is always a bonus. The best way I can describe things is by using references, so I apologise for that. But I'm going to guess that most people, certainly out of you three and who are watching this, have played Call of Duty 4 at some point. I know I have. The first level in that, can you remember, it's like the mock-up of the cargo ship?
Yes.
In the hangar, and you run around, and all you've got to do is you've got to do it within a certain time, and it goes, yes, you can move on to the next mission. But what most of us did was, no, we need to do that faster, and then spend 4 hours trying to get it down to like 10 seconds. We've got that at one point of the day as well. So we're running a car boot, so we've got basically little different bits that you can do whatever you want, drop in and out, or go and drink in the campsite, that's fine. So we've got our tunnel network, and we're going to recreate that, albeit it's not in a ship loadout, using not only those targets that you saw in that, but also friend targets. We're using the real ones that the SF use, so that you can't just run around and go target, bang. You've actually got to go, fuck, I've just shot a woman by mistake who had no gun. You've actually got to watch it. We'll put some pyro in as well to make it interesting. And that's a time trial. Again, that's for charity, RBLI, get the money from that. There's prizes, which is quite cool. And then my favourite bit, which is the biggest, it might work, it might not, but hopefully it will work, is the counter-terror simulations, which is, again, using the people we've got from MPAC to draw on from the police experience. We've created scenarios which are supposed to sort of mirror the sort of stuff that either the SAS, if they were deployed on CT operations in the UK, or the sort of police SFO, AFI teams would deal with. We've got 4 scenarios encompassing different bits. One of them is a hostage siege. I'm going to put that out there. But then, rather than it being 2 teams or 2 large teams, this is completely, it doesn't matter what team you signed up for the main event. In your groups of 4 to 6, so if you've got your mates with you or joining with some others, you go in as that small fire team, and the other team are all actors. They're not actors from an agency, they're marshals and police officers. Please don't take that as an incentive. You're going to be playing the roles of attackers, hostages, civilians, etc. And it's with sort of crafted these scenarios that you've actually got to think. Someone might run towards you, and actually it's someone running away from someone who's got a gun. It's going to be a hell of a lot of trigger control. It's going to be heavily. That will be real cap for those that enjoy that.
No drum mags.
No drum mags. No high caps even. And yeah, all these other things to try and make something different. So it might work. It might not.
That sounds really cool, and it's good to see. And like you say, you guys haven't started in a place which is, vacant of airsoft sites. You guys have hit in what is arguably probably the most popular county, or the most populated county of airsofters. I mean, arguably, we've got to be one of the biggest for sure.
Certainly, like Kent and the southeast in general, we are spoilt. I know there's sites across the UK, but
yeah, absolutely,
it is just insane. And I don't live in Kent; I live in Surrey, and I had never played at a Kent site until we started running the fort. And I went over there and suddenly realised what Invicta and Christ, there's this whole other untapped market not untapped market, sorry, like as in sites that I'd never been to play at.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you probably noticed that as well, that you'll suddenly realise, crap, I've never heard of that before. And yeah, I mean, the
Jim,
moment you start going further afield, there's so much more out there.
Yeah, Jim.
Obviously, we've got a wonderful shop only a few miles away, which a certain person might work at. But
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Jim, as someone who works on, I think you've got 4 or 5 sites you guys set up on now. Something that Alex said earlier was about trying to entice players who have a home. What's your thoughts of going into these sites? Do you see the same faces? I'm starting to see almost more and more people want to roam, but it does mean it only tends to be players who have been playing 5-6 months. They've got their Yukara. Finally, they've had to go to the same place for several times to get their Yukara, and then they start to roam. And when you go to sites, are you seeing the same faces week in, week out, or do you go to different sites and see, someone from a different place?
Airsofters are just disloyal at their heart. Some of them are. Yeah, it's weird. I usually see it more between that divide of fair weather airsofters versus, it started to rain again, I'm going to pack all my stuff up and I won't see you for 6 months. I think there's a lot more of that. I think in Kent, there is lots of airsoft sites, but I would make the argument that they are all very, very different.
Yes.
Each one offers something completely unique to the next. I mean, there are some sites that I think suit better to new players, first timers, places like Ace Combat and Call Under Fire, where it's not labor intensive in terms of, it's all on a flat. There's no hills to climb or if you want something that's tougher, then you've got Invicta, which is on a gradient for the most part, and you're you're not playing up and down, but you're actually sort of playing along the side of a gradient. I think it's the best way to
same thing like Bush Valley, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you got Bush Valley, which is sort of a bit flat, and then rolling terrain, and that has its own sort of unique challenges. And Reaper Ops is, or the fort rather, it's an extremely unique site, being an old Napoleonic fort. I mean, there was only one other Napoleonic fort that you could play airsoft at in Kent, and that's long since gone.
Yeah.
But that forts aren't. Forts were never built so you could fight in them. Weird, they were designed so they kept the fighting out for the most part. So it's really interesting to see what Alex and Dan and the rest of the guys there have done with it to make it that much more playable. To the point of it's the only site shop I've ever gone and done where you literally have a window that I can look out of and see people running around shooting each other. Normally, I'm in a safe zone, kind of removed from the action, and it was also the first time I've ever had to pack up under fire. That was unique, but it was so much fun. You do get those sort of groups of guys, little cliques of guys that will go out and they'll play. Usually when there's a new site, when the new site opens, that's when I tend to see it's like, it's the same old guys that will go out and check out what a new site's got to offer. And then there are those people that just take a lot longer to get round, or the problem is there are only so many Sundays in the month, and
we run Saturday games.
Exactly.
But there are so many sites, not enough game dates on.
No, absolutely.
And it just makes it really, really difficult for some people to get around, or it falls on their odd work day, so they can only go to certain sites and not others, and it's really, really tricky. So I think there are sometimes those people that seem like, they only play at one site, or the home team is sometimes sort of more by force than it is by design.
Yeah.
Because it's, or it's because they can only get to that site because, otherwise they need lifts. Or the weird one I've always found is people that aren't prepared to drive, to a site. It's like, oh no, that can't go down to Redemption. That's down in Portsmouth. That's miles away. And it's like, okay, but you'll go to Birmingham or somewhere like that for, an event, but they won't sort of drive to what is actually, as the crow flies, a nearer site. And I don't know if that's true down at AAA, where there's a lot. I mean, I know a lot of people that go, can't go down to Dover. That's crossing that Canterbury line. You can't go any further past Dover or any further north past Watford. It's just that little catchment area that you've got to be in.
I don't know. I mean, the guys I was speaking to at the weekend, they come all the way from Greenwich. And that seems to be the marker for AAA, because there was another set of people that came and they'd come from London as well. So, yeah, that seems to be as far as they seem to go.
It's just people avoiding that Dartford crossing. They can't
Yeah.
spend the £10 on that. Just can't.
Yeah.
You never know what time you're going to get home.
North south side, Essex and Kent.
You never know what time you're going to get home at that point.
You never know if you're going to make it to the event.
Well, Alex, before we go, when is the event and how can people get involved and read more about it and kind of book, of course, and take a booking?
A couple of minutes ago, I started giggling. We launched the booking for that event at 8 p.m. tonight to specifically coincide with this broadcast, seeing as I was mentioning it. And we've only had information online about it for like the last fortnight or so. That was limited. Dan, who is the other half of Reaper Ops, just messaged me to say, "Hi Alex, just to let you know, half of the tickets are now already sold, and there's only 22 spaces left."
Wow!
Oh, something's going right. So if you want to try and get on the remaining 50% of tickets, don't hang about. But the event is on the 31st of August and 1st of September. So it's not the bank holiday weekend, it's the one afterwards. We're in Kent, like it seems most sites. £45 as well, which I think is quite good for a weekender. But reaperops.com is the website. We are on Airsoft. We're on Facebook as Reaper Ops Airsoft, rather than the fort. If you search for the fort, you won't find us. There is another fort up in Scotland. So far, it's not caused confusion because they're far enough apart, but Reaper Ops Airsoft is the website. There's a booking page on there. It's all done online. Put in your details, pay via PayPal because we all love PayPal, and then it's just done and dusted. The link is in the comments I can see, and it's just below me about here.
That's it.
But they've got a lot of information on the Facebook page as well with pictures and all that.
Awesome.
There's one thing I forgot to say, which is really cool, and I feel I should push this guy's business because I've booked him, which means I know I like him. For the player party, we want to have a bar on site, but our campsite is in the middle of a field. So getting a mobile bar to a campsite in the middle of the field at an airsoft site is actually quite hard. And a lot of companies, bar contractors, when you try and sell it to them, get a little bit, I don't know, apprehensive. There's a guy called Spencer who's ex-forces who loves craft beer, so he started his own mobile bar company. Because he's ex-forces, he bought a Land Rover Defender, has built the bar into the Land Rover, so it's got all the taps along the side, a proper bar, tents, tables, cool. Everything, and he's going. So at the weekend we've got him booked, so he's coming. So it's just, I think. Sorry, I'll bring it back a moment. Bar, Land Rover.
Yeah.
Land Rover bar.
Please drink responsibly.
Please drink responsibly, and if you are over the age of 18.
Well, with that one, I need to find out what this bar looks like, so I'm going to have a look online. Alex,
Google it now. It's called the Beer Dispensary.
The beer.
It looks really cool.
So now
there we go. Everyone's gone to look at beer now.
Yeah. Literally be the last places are being. I just come for the beer and the Land Rover.
That is very cool. So, definitely check that out. That's wicked.
Do you have the facility to show a picture of it? Just so
I'm looking now for a photo on the Instagram to share for sure. Go on, Jim. What were you about to say?
I was just going to ask. You said about having a car boot there on the Saturday. Does that mean if you haven't booked in for the event that you'll be unable to attend the car boot side of it, or how does that work?
So the car boot sale is running in tandem to several of the other events like the Sniper Challenge and the Kill House thing, where you can drop in and out and do it as many times as you want. So the car boot sale, open to everyone, free. You don't need to be an event hot ticket holder. You can just come down to do the car boot, but you obviously can't necessarily participate in the games. If you're an event ticket holder, you can, obviously you're there anyway, but you can also set up a stall for free. If you're not a ticket holder, and you'd like to set up a stall and sell stuff, send me an email, which is just sales@reaperops.com, and I'm sure we can do that. There is also going to be a trade stall from a wonderful retailer that are not only an airsoft company, but also a registered firearms dealer, and they do military surplus and all those other things. And I think they're called platoon stores. I'm not entirely sure. They will also be there. So you've got that side of things as well.
I swear people think we get people on just to hawk what I do, and it's like not the.
I think when you do something well, people will say it anyway.
Well, I appreciate it.
Unless you're special airsoft suppliers, and then you get special groups made for you.
So when I years ago, I remember looking at that website thinking, "Fuck me, that's an old website," and I just never bought anything from there. And I've only recently come across the complete controversy over that company.
That is definitely a conversation for another show. But yeah, if you just search special airsoft supplies, everything you need is on Google. It's an amazing, wonderful thing. Alex, thank you so much for joining us, guys. Make sure you do check out Reaper Ops. If you're in the Kent area or even surrounding area, definitely go check out Reaper Ops at the Fort. And of course, the Weekender, half the tickets already sold, so definitely check that out. Alex, I look forward to coming back there sometime soon for sure, and I hope you have a great event.
Well, thank you very much. If you do want to join us, our next normal skirmish game is on the 7th of July, and that is a £20 if you pre-book, £25 on the day, and you get a taste of the Fort.
Yeah, highly recommend it. Sarah, Jim, what are you guys up to this week? Anything amazing happening?
Well, my bushcraft got rained off last Wednesday, so I'm doing that.
Happen. How does a bushcraft get rained off?
Well, it was the survival part of it, so nobody wanted to do it. I was like pussies. I really wanted to do it.
It's the corporate do, isn't it? That's why.
Yeah.
Sarah's now got an appointment with HR for using language to her colleagues.
No, I'm doing it this week now, so yeah, going to do it. We're going to boil instead of get soaked, so it should be fun.
Well, enjoy that one. Rained off bushcraft. That is just two things I'd never thought I'd hear. Jim, you got anything planned this week, mate?
I've got loads planned this week. Obviously, there's the other project, the non-airsoft related project, which will be taking up a lot of time. And then this weekend, I am at A Airsoft Site. I can't remember which one. It's
Bush Valley?
Yes. Yeah, that is this weekend. Yeah. Thank you. We've got like 3 different events on this weekend. But yeah, I'll be at the SEO Milson.
Very cool. Alex, since you're not playing or not running a game this weekend, you got anything planned this week?
I do, and it is called the day job, sadly. I'm working all weekend.
Well, enjoy that one. You can, I'd say you can rest up for the next weekend, but that doesn't happen either, does it really?
No, really. If I'm lucky, I might get to play one game, and that'll be enough.
Well, thank you so much once again for coming on, guys and girls. Thank you so much for watching Airsoft Radio. Next week, we have Phil Bucknell, so Clearwater Airsoft coming on live. It should be a very fun conversation. Someone who's been in Airsoft quite a while, someone who likes his Gucci gear for sure. And it should be a fun conversation. That will be on next Monday at 8 p.m. Until then, guys, have a great week, and we shall see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.